Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We got Coach Ross Hodge here. Coach, can you go ahead and give us an update on finals week and everything that's been going on with the Mountaineers, and then we'll take questions. Please use the raised hand feature to ask a question.
Yeah, obviously finals week, guys, finishing up classes, gives you opportunity to do kind of a couple different things, get some much needed mental and physical rest, coming off Saturday's game, and then also the ability to focus on ourselves for um, the week and try to do what we didn't get to do a lot of in the fall, which is practice with our entire team. So that's been nice.
Go ahead and open up for questions. Please use the raised hand feature. Go first to Kevin Kinder.
Hey, Coach. We were talking Saturday after the game, and you listed a couple things that were most important for y'all to work on that, hadn't been going as well to your liking as what you wanted on the defensive side. And I was wondering, are more of those physical things or just things where you've done them well at times and not other well at times? Are there adjustments in what you need to do defensively, or is it just a matter of being more consistent?
Yeah, it's a combination of all of it. Some of there's times where you are flat out not doing what you've been asked to do. There are those, a couple possessions here and there where, again, you're not executing even what you've been asked to do, and then I think there's other time periods where um, the inability to play through fatigue breaks us down at times. And then, there are some scenarios and situations where you can look back and evaluate schematically, are there better things to do with certain lineup combinations? So it's a little bit of all of it. I think the time period that we missed the most in early fall was the ability to really get out there and practice at the level of physicality, intensity, and competitive nature required to play through fatigue and play through, um, where you kind of, as a player, you're kind of bottoming and out. You don't think you can go much further, and you still can. So it's really been all those things when you look at it, and then also the other part that impacts your defense is your offense, and we talked about that as well. It's not like football where your defense gets a stop and they run off the field, and then your offense comes on. And you do hear the term in football, complementary football. But basketball is the same way. And if you look at some of those stretches where our defense has been its worst, it's also coinciding with our offense being inefficient as well. So, and then if you look at the time periods where our defense has been its best, it's typically synced up with an efficient offense where you're scoring, getting to the foul line, taking care of the ball. So there's a lot of layers to it, and you just got to keep getting better at all of them.
And then you mentioned having your whole team assembled now and able to practice with them all. Do you have enough players now you think that are capable of playing in the Big 12 that you can avoid a couple of those fatigue issues?
I hope so. And that's where consistency from individual players allows you not to have to stretch other guys' minutes as far as you have to. So that's part of where the individuals need to continue to improve on both sides of the ball, where you can be a little fresher in the second half of those games, and again, not ride guys and extend them longer than you'd like, but you feel like you have to win the game.
We'll go to Quinn.
Hey, coach. So, in a week like this, do you spend more time kind of looking at that Ohio State game since you have a week off, or do you kind of just throw it back and, now you start to work on what's next?
No, it kind of allows you the time to go back and reevaluate all your games and look at all of them. And then when you're in your practice, like I said, for us, because of Jackson's injury at the end of the summer, Amir not being here until the fall, some of the other guys battling injuries during September and October. What we've been able to do this week is again have like full on competitive live scrimmage situations where your best players are playing your best players, and you can do it for long periods of time. And you can kind of get back to building the foundational habits and your kind of your base of what you want to be, that you can only really do if you have the ability to practice. So you're going back and you're looking at all those games, every game that we've played, and you'll kind of scan through the offensive decents and positions. But what you're doing right now, in particular, these last 72 hours, is you're just trying to get back to your base and what you know you should be doing and doing it at a high level.
Cody?
Hey Ross, you talked. I think it was Saturday. You talked about in the second half of games, the defense is on the other side of the court. So I'm curious, like, what's the difference when the defense is right in front of you and you can coach them versus in the second half, the offense is in front of you and you can coach that. Like, what's the difference in the game, like for you in your staff doing that?
Well, yeah, like defensively, obviously you got a lot of energy in front of your bench. So you have the energy from your teammates that are right in front of you. Maybe there's the assistants that scouted that opponent when they hear a play call called out. They literally have the ability to verbally communicate to the players what exactly is about to happen. Um, and just the energy and effort that it requires to be an elite defensive team on top of getting help from the coaching staff and tell, hey, this is what's coming. They just called whatever, 5 Ram, and he's about to screen for him, and you can talk them through those defensive possessions. Second half of the game, again, they get down there, they're a little bit more, it becomes reliant on the 5 guys that are out on the floor at that time. And then offensively, it just becomes a matter of continuing to execute whether whatever end of the floor you're on. Again, we had 22 offensive possessions the last 16 minutes of that game. We were up 16. At that point in time, we had 22 possessions from that moment until the end of regulation. We had 9 turnovers, 9 of our 15. So the other 35 minutes of the game, you only turned it over 6 times, which you can win doing that. But in that time period, we had 9 turnovers, probably had 2 or 3 ill-advised shots that you'd like back. And then you have a trip where you go to the foul line and you go 0 for 2. So 14 of your 22 final possessions are fairly empty. Well, you're putting a ton of pressure on your defense if that's what your offense is going to be doing. Now, would we like to get to the point where our defense can hold up regardless? But part of us being good defensively has always been mirrored with an efficient offense. And that's about as inefficient as you can be. You put a lot of pressure on your defense. And then coincidentally, you're putting pressure on your defense. They're stopping you and they're scoring. Now you're playing against the set defense, against their set defense, where earlier we were scoring, we were getting to the foul line. They're playing against our set defense. Our set defense is pretty good. And you're really both your defense and your offense are hurting each other.
Go to Mike.
Hey, Coach. I have a couple, but first off, I know you mentioned early in the year that you have depth, and there are multiple players that can carry the team offensively if need be, and obviously Honor recently has really been the leader of that. But now that you're getting into the end of the year and getting into Big 12 play, do you need to find that second guy to lead it with him so you can strategize every single game, or can you win in the Big 12, with it being almost on or huff and then by committee, and whoever picks it up, then you work around. Do you need to have that guy by now in the season?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's that guy or guys.
Okay.
Like I think a lot of it is cons consistency would be probably we're saying the same thing, like what you're asking and what I'm saying is
Okay.
like, can you can you get to the point where you're consistently going into these games anticipating what you're going to get from each guy, and
Right.
then depending on who you're playing and what the matchup presents and how they're going to guard you, um, maybe there's a little fluctuation from night to night, but you're not going into it again if you feel like you have an advantage in the post and you're going into that game and then all of a sudden you don't have the advantage you thought you were going to have,
Right, right, right.
or vice versa. You know, so yes, I agree with it. Maybe not just like one specific individual, but if
Yeah.
you can get more consistency from more guys across the board, then it allows you to have the options that you want, to be able to play with.
Got it. And then just as a quick secondary question, and I know you talked earlier in the season about Eagle staff offensively, but how would you evaluate him on the defensive end the last several games? And what can fans expect from him, even minutes wise, going into Big 12 play, since those minutes have been a little reduced recently?
Yeah, I think again being able to execute defensively is going to be big, and like that's where we like you said we talked about that, and he had done a really good job of that. He really bought into it,
Yeah,
and that's where I felt like he was impacting winning, regardless of maybe his shots going in or out, and that's kind of where we where we where we put our trust and our hope in is on the defensive end of the floor. And so if he's executing defensively, that's always gonna allow him or anybody. It's not just him, but kind of in the case of Saturday night, he didn't execute early in the second half, and it cost us. And then you couple that in with like, okay, maybe you're not having the most productive offensive night, and you're not executing on that end of the floor. Well, then it's not just him, but
sure.
anybody that isn't executing defensively or igniting you offensively, then you don't get to be in the game at that moment. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
the thing I like about him, and again, I appreciate about him, like I always said, it's not like he's meeting it with resistance or blame, or he doesn't have the heart or the attitude that he's getting screwed or I'm picking on him, or he has the heart and like he knows he needs to be better, and he's working really hard at it to be better. And he's not alone in those areas. Uh, but he knows we need him to be better, and he knows that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll go to Keenan.
Ross, you've talked a lot about the practices, like going back and forth with all your guys and learning about your team. What have you learned about your team, and does that help you kind of settle on rotations a little bit more moving forward?
I wouldn't, not quite yet from a rotational standpoint. I mean, what I've learned about our team is they take accountability. They don't they don't fight back against, what they're being asked to do. We haven't quite been able to do it at the level that we'd like to, but again, like we mentioned, Trey, he mirrors the rest of the team. Again, when we go in and we're watching and we're having these film sessions, it's not like they're disagreeing where we're hurting ourselves in these close games. I mean, you can see it. They recognize it. Now we've got to be able to put ourselves through difficult situations and practices and just the experiences of these tough losses and learn from it and grow from it. And but again, I've learned that they have a great ability to bounce back from disappointment and difficult losses. It hasn't impacted their belief. It hasn't impacted their work ethic. Hasn't impacted their coachability, and that allows you to get better.
Justin.
Coach, I got how you doing, Coach?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Good, good. Just want to make sure you could hear me. I kind of a side question. The with the rule change this year allowing coaches to basically challenge certain plays. Um, have you challenged a play yet this year? I can't remember if you have or not.
Yeah, we challenged one Saturday,
Oh, no, okay,
and they upheld it. It was a goaltend. They called a goaltend, and it was. I mean, I I from the look that we had on our replay, I didn't think it was a goaltend, or obviously wouldn't have challenged it, but they just said it was kind of one of those ones that was the call stands, and not the call is confirmed. They didn't
right.
quite think they had enough to overturn it all the way.
I was, talking to Coach Kellogg about this earlier. Just what are your thoughts about having those options to challenge plays? It's obviously it's new, and I mean, do you guys have a system like where an assistant is constantly watching replays of the game, and maybe he signals you, or do you just go with a gut feeling?
Oh
What
yeah, yeah, you have I think it's I mean, obviously it mirrors the NBA game and allows some risk reward benefit from a coaching standpoint, as opposed to in the past, you had all reward and no risk. You could just kind of talk your way into the official to uh, you know, review it with no penalty. And so now there's obviously a penalty associated. If you get it wrong, costs you a timeout, you lose the challenge. And yeah, most people like us, you have your iPads and you have the technology on the bench, and then sometimes it just matters how quickly can you get the replay synced up,
right?
and do you want to take that risk? And of course, like players, they're hard to trust in those situations because they never feel like they hit the ball last, and they want you to review everything. And we've had that conversation with those guys too, like, hey man, you gotta know if you're gonna say you didn't touch it, you gotta know. But sometimes that can be hard for them in real time as well to do that. So I think it's a net benefit to it, and yeah.
Obviously, as the conference play is coming up in a couple weeks, games become more magnified. Does that maybe change your approach at all? At Do I challenge this play? Do I want to risk a timeout, or do I just challenge everything that I possibly can? Does the Big 12 play change that philosophy of challenging at all?
No, no. I mean, I think you're gonna challenge plays where you feel like you are gonna be right, regardless whether it's Big 12 or on Monday. I mean, obviously the if it's a close game, the magnitude of it shifts regardless of it's a Big 12 game or you're playing whoever. So,
Thank you, Coach.
yep.
Mike Casazza.
Hey Ross, how are you?
I'm good, Mike. How about yourself?
I'm great, man. Thank you. I have a couple about honor, if you don't mind. He led the country in threes last year, and he's doing it again this year. So people really know his game, obviously. It's kind of fascinating to think about. He's going up against Big 12 competition soon here. The coaching, the support staff, all the scouting they do, really good players. What is your hunch as to what's in store for him and his reputation and how he's kind of going to be in the crosshairs of pretty much every defense you're going to see now?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think yeah, going into these games, I would imagine, he'll be 1A, maybe 1A, 1B, 1C, as to who you got to stop. Um, and how that is applied, it'll be interesting to see. I did think he did a good job with playing with the ball in his hands uh, in the second half of the Ohio State game, which will be something we'll have to um, continue to get better at and improve at as a team, and even him as an individual. So that way you're not always relying on trying to run an action to get him a shot or get him open off the ball, having him initiating some offense, and that allows for his creativity and his speed to kick in a little bit. Again, I thought he did a good job in that Ohio State game, and they trapped a couple of his ball screens and he made them pay. You know, he made the right play and was able to throw it back to Belo. Belo hit a three at the top of the key, and then one time he dribbled around it and threw it to Jackson for a layup. So just got to keep finding ways as a group and as a team to keep putting him in good positions, and then he's got to continue to improve like the rest of his teammates. You know, even with a guy like that that's a senior with 2 or 3 months left in his college basketball career, you want to take these opportunities to continue to get better. You know, and he can get better with playing with the ball in his hands a little bit more and playing some point guard, and that's where I think you can see a lot of growth with him.
All right, you kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I'll ask anyhow here. With this time you have and you're practicing, are do you tinker with adding things? Not just maybe him as point guard, but here's a play that they expect is coming, but hey, do something different. Or
Oh,
I think you've seen like triangle and two and box and one a couple of times too, which is not ordinary. Do you have to prepare for that just in case?
yeah, and again, that's the benefit of getting the opportunity to have as much practice time as we're going to have um, over these next couple weeks. Is yeah, you can play against maybe some non-traditional defenses, some play different lineups, practice different lineups, uh, do some things like you said, maybe go trap his ball screens, maybe just go trap him, and you can work on it offensively and defensively, putting your best defensive lineup out there and working on some situational things that come up. So, yeah, you're always trying to find a ways to tinker a little here and there. And if you can, steal 6 to 8 points, whether it's a wrinkle on a set play that you're already running, or a baseline out of bounds play, or a sideline out of bounds play, or a special situation, yeah, you're always trying to find little advantages.
Okay, we'll go to Bob, Mike, Cody, and Quinn, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Bob.
Hey, Ross, this is a kind of a coaching question, I guess. You're playing a team that's not on the same level as you coming out of this thing. What happens if, speaking about honor, he goes in there and he is really hot? I mean, where do you draw the line if he looks like he's going to score 40 or whatever it might be, and especially in the situation he is in as one of the leading scorers.
As far as like leaving them in the game and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, getting him the ball, et cetera. It's
Yeah,
who knows? He might score 60 in the game.
yeah, we've been in that situation a couple times where he had an opportunity to maybe break the school record late in games, and what we've tried to do is just honor the game. No pun intended. Just try to respect the game, and if you need them to be out there in the flow of the game and those things happen, then you let them happen organically. But I think if you start trying to force records and force point totals, and you start kind of playing the game for any other reason than just trying to win the game, then you ask for like unfortunate things to happen. And like we talked about it, I think the first time Honor had the opportunity to break the school record, you know, you're always fighting it. Like, man, should I leave them in? And people want you to leave them in because they want them to break the record. But again, my responsibility is to also, help people from themselves. And again, I would never be able to live with myself as the leader of the program if you were out there trying to hunt a record and he stepped on somebody's foot and now he had to miss a couple weeks. So we'll let the game play out the way it is. And just play it organically.
Thanks.
Back to Mike.
All right, Coach. Now you mentioned Honor maybe playing the point more, and he kind of flirted with that a little bit against Ohio State. He had that one moment where he stepped out of bounds. Number one, how would you evaluate him as playing the point from that game, or even just in general from what you've seen from him, the ability to play the point? And then on him, but for the whole lineup overall, how much does a lack of size. I mean, how much does size matter? I guess simply put, here he's a smaller guy despite scoring a lot. And in the Big 12, you mentioned even at your intro presser, there are some big lineups out there. How
Mhm.
much will size impact your decisions on who gets minutes, no matter what else is going on?
Yeah, to answer you the first part of your question, if you look back at his junior or his sophomore year at Chattanooga, even he actually played with the ball in his hands a lot more than he did last year. And that was one thing we looked at when we were evaluating him. We actually went back and looked a couple years ago and like, okay, man, he's actually a little better with the ball in his hands than maybe he was given credit for last year because of the way their team was made up. And I thought he did a good job in that Ohio State game, initiating offense, creating offense for others. Like you said, probably needs to learn because he's not super big. So you get down there on the baseline, a little nudge, a little bump, you're getting pushed out. And he actually made a really good read. I mean, this
Yeah.
much, he's dropping it off to Chance, and Chance is dunking the ball, and you got a 3-point lead with 20 seconds to go in the game. And it was actually the right read. He's just got to have a little more awareness of where he is. And so, I liked what he saw. And again, it takes a little pressure off of him of always being reliant on someone getting him open. He can initiate it, and obviously he has the ability to make threes off the bounce, which you saw there too with the ball in his hands. So, and then your second question, like, you know, size matters, for sure. Um, and what you've got to be able to do though is I think there are some things schematically that you can do to maybe protect yourself when you have smaller lineups out there, whether it's maybe being a little more aggressive in ball screen coverages, whether it's double teaming the post, whether it's maybe trying to take advantage of, okay, like maybe you don't have a size advantage, but maybe you have a foot speed advantage. And that's where, again, the more you learn about your team, the more you play with your team, um, the more, even as a coach, you realize like, hey, maybe we're going to have to look at some different ways to play depending on who's out there. If Harlan's out there, maybe you can play this way. If Harlan's not out there, maybe you got to play this way, So, but, you know, um, I mean, there's been small guards in the league, in particular to Honor specifically, but collectively, as the team itself, if you are going to have some smaller lineups out there, maybe you have to alter some of the things you're doing schematically.
Thank you.
Cody, then Quinn.
Ross, I just wanted to ask about Jackson and how far he's come along. Because when he first came back, he was playing like a few minutes at a time here and there, and then jump forward a couple weeks, he's obviously one of the guys you trust to have out there, down the stretch, and then he basically played every minute in both overtime. So just, how much has he progressed, just since he's been back?
Yeah, he's getting better. He's getting better, and he's getting what he needs more than anything, which is practices and hard practices and physical practices. And again, I don't think you could ask for much more out of what he's given you in these 4 or 5 games, considering that he missed 3 months, and again, he wasn't like a Chance, where it's like, yeah, Chance to get to play the first 5 games, but he was a full participant in practice. And so I think You know, he gives us another live body. He's a really good finisher. Um, you know, he stretched the floor at times, made a couple pick and pop threes, which create spacing. And so yeah, I think you just see him continuing to get better and get stronger, you know, with his wrist, and again get just some foundational parts of his game that we missed, you know. And again, there's excuses and there's reasons, you know, like it's a no excuse culture. Nobody's making excuses, but it may be a reason why maybe some things aren't as sharp as you'd like them to be, despite where you are in the season when you're, you know, have throwing a guy out there in those type of games, and you know he's calling a coverage that ain't the right ball screen coverage. But it's not like, can you fully expect him to do that if he hasn't been able to do that in practice? And so that's been the beauty of this. But I've been, you know, pleased with how he's played in his return.
And we'll close with Quinn.
So Amir has started to get more playing time, and you mentioned Honor playing the point, but it seems like Jasper has kind of been a little more comfortable the last couple of games with Amir running the point and him playing kind of that two or that three position. So what can you say about how those two have started to mesh?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to having all your players in practice at the same time, so you can play like competitively. You can play your best five against the other best five, and that allows you to experiment with a Jasper and a Amir, which really, up until you can do that, they're never really going to be able to play on the same team, because you don't have enough people to even play a 5-on-5 game. And you know, whether I guess playing the point specifically, when you talk about Honor and who is the point guard, I think um like the title per se of who is and who isn't, it just gives you offensive versatility, that different people can initiate offense with the ball in their hands. And you don't always have to have the same person handling that ball pressure and handling the ball and having the defense up under you. And again, the more people that you have that can dribble, pass, and shoot, in theory, the better offense, you know, you should be able to run, you know. And so that was, again, something that we've been able to like kind of tinker with in practice. And you're like, okay, like, you know, I like that. And you know, Amir's playmaking ability and his speed, you know, and also it takes some of the pressure off of Jasper, where he's not having to shoulder the load by himself all the time, and you can kind of play them together. And even if it's simply as one of the guys brings the ball up the floor and just throws it to the other guy, and now he has the live catch and the live dribble, and he's not having to zigzag back and forth with a defender. It can you know, save your legs a little bit. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's, again, it just has allowed you to experiment and play different lineups, and play some lineups that you maybe didn't even hasn't crossed your mind yet.
This concludes our media session. Thanks to everybody for calling in, and Coach, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you all, appreciate it.